Hi, this is packet 76 to 81. This is multi-step word problem, and let's begin. Okay, this is page 76. So if you need to pause and get your packet, feel free to do that. Number one, you have to be careful on these to make sure that you are really paying attention to what the equation is asking you to do. So the first one says, scroll here, 8 times the number, circle this one right here, 8 times the number n plus 9 is equal to 73. So I usually just take it one step at a time. 8 times the number, which is called n in this case, is or plus 9 is equal to 73. So you don't have to put the times sign in between the 8 and the n. You just kind of combine them here. 8n means 8 times n. So then you look for your answer, and that would look like we have a match here with letter B. And then we have to figure out what n equals. So in order to figure out what n equals, you're going to have to get n by itself. So first you move anything that's adding or subtracting from the variable side, and you move that first. So I have a plus 9 here, so I'm going to subtract 9. Whatever I do to one side of the equals, I need to do to the other side of the equals. So now I have 9 minus 9 on this side. That will give me 0, right? So that crosses itself off, cancels. I'm left with an 8n on the left. And then on the right, I do the math. 73 minus 9 is 64. And now I have to do inverse, or the opposite of what's currently being done, to get the n by itself. So I have 8 times n, so I'm going to use division. That's the opposite of multiplication. I'm going to divide by 8 to get n by itself. Whatever I do to one side of the equals, I need to do to the other side of the equals. So now my 2/8 will cross off, and I'll be left with just the n on the left. And on the right, I do the math. 64 divided by 8 is going to give me 8. So n is equal to 8. So that's how you do these problems. Let me clear. And then let's look at a different one down here. Let's look at one where you actually have to make the equation. Let's look at number 6. So we take it one step at a time. 2/3, okay, I can write 2/3. You know how to do that, right? 2/3 of a number m. Okay, so 2/3 of a number is really 2/3 times the number. 2/3 times whatever number will give you that fractional part. So 2/3 times m plus 1/6 of the same number. So I need to make a 1/6. And 1/6 of a number is going to be, it's the same number. So again, it's going to be an m. You multiply, plus 1/6 of m is equal to 25. So there's my equation that I'm setting up. And now I have to solve for m. I have two like terms to combine before I can solve. I have 2/3 m plus a 1/6 m. So if I remember when I did my fraction units, I have to have the same bottom number in order to add them together, and I don't. So I have to change that so that I do. So 2/3 can be changed to a 6 on the bottom. The 1/6 is already in sixes, so I'm just going to rewrite it over here as 1/6. And of course, we have an m that goes with that. So in the end, I'm going to put the m back with it. So 3 times what number gives me 6? 3 times 2. So whatever I times by on the bottom, I times by on the top. And now I have 2 times 2, which is 4. So 4/6 plus my 1/6 gives me 5/6. So that's 5/6 m. So I'm going to go back over here now that I figured out my fraction part. I know that these two added together are going to give me a 5/6. And then my m stays with it. as they go together, and that equals still our 25. Now we have to get m by itself. Remember how to do that? Well, we're currently multiplying, so we would divide by 5, 6. However, dividing by 5, 6 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm just going to skip that division step and just multiply by the reciprocal of 6 over 5. Remember, reciprocal is just switching the fraction to make the top number the bottom and the bottom number the top. So whatever I do to one side, I also need to do to the other side of the equals. So I have to multiply by 6 over 5 to the right side as well. Notice how when I multiply the left side by the reciprocal, the 6's will cancel, the 5's will cancel, and I'll be left with just an m. So that's what I want. I want the variable by itself. So now I have m. And what does m equal? Well, I do the math on the other side. So I have 25 and a 5. So I know that 5 will go into 25 5 times, and 5 will go into itself once. So now I have 5 times 6 on the top over 1. So 5 times 6 is 30. 30 over 1 is just 30. So m is equal to 30. If I wanted to check my work, I could take my 30 and plug it back into my equation, wherever there's an m, and see if I yield a true statement. So 2/3 times 30 plus 1/6 times 30 should equal 25. So I'll leave you to check that on your own at home there. I'm going to move on a little bit. Let's clear. Okay, number 7 is a good one to do. So let's do number 7. Denise pays a 6% sales tax in her state. Recently, Denise bought a new bed for a total price of $360.40, including the tax. What was the price of the bed before the tax? And we're saying P is the price of the bed. So that's before the tax. So whatever the price is, we know we're going to have to add the tax to it. I'm just going to type the word tax here. Plus tax is equal to the price after tax, correct? It's equal to price after tax. So that's not the equation officially, but I just wanted you to see what we're doing. So price before the tax, P, plus the tax. How do I figure out the tax on something? Well, I've got a 6%. How do I change 6% to a decimal? I move the decimal 2 places to the left, right? So that would become 0.06 times what? Times the original price, right? So times P, which we don't know, so we call it P. And that's going to equal, what does that equal? That equals the total price, or the price after tax. So 360.40. And erase the circle here. So notice we have price, grab my spotlight, price plus tax, here's our tax, equals price after tax. Here's our price after the tax. So now that we have our equation set up with our numbers, we can solve for P. And I should try to put some white space in here for us. So let's put a little bit of white space so we have a little bit more room to do our work. So what am I going to do first? Well, I have to get P by itself. Well, I can't get P by itself until I combine the P's that I have in the problem. So I have a P plus a 0.06 P. And remember that when you have a variable by itself, you really have an imaginary 1 in front of the variable. So now I can add 1 plus 0.06. That would give me 1.06 with a little p after it, equals 360.40. 360.40 right there. And now what do? Right, I divide by 1.06 to both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. The 1.06's will cross off on the left, leaving me with the variable by itself, which is what I want, p, equals, and then I just have to do the math. It's tempting to use the calculator at this point. However, remember on the test, you're not using your calculator, so we are going to use good old long division. We put the top number on the inside and the bottom number on the outside. And when we have a decimal in the outside number, we first need to move the decimal. So I'm going to move it 2 spots, 1, 2. If I move the outside decimal 2 spots, I move the inside decimal 2 spots, 1, 2. So this is a great big old division problem. So my new decimal is going right here. I might as well stick that in right up above on our answer in case we need it. Great big decimal. So now I have 106 into 360. That's the first amount I can go into. So 3 times 106 might be enough. So on the side, I'm going to figure that out. So 106 times 3. That's 3 times 6 is 18, carry the 1. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1, and 3 times 1 is 3. That's 318. And I'm pretty sure if I did 106 times 4, I would be over, because that would be over 400. So it's going to be 3 times. Let me put that in there in red here. I'm going to put it over the 0 because I went into 360. So 106 times 3 is 318. And then I'm going to subtract. So the 6 is going to become a 5. The 0 is going to become a 10. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 5 minus 1 is 4. The 2 3's become a 0. Okay, bring down another number. I have to bring down my 4. So 106 into 424. So I'm going to go back over here on the side, erase my other one here. Get rid of all my nice white space that way now. And now I'm going to multiply 106 times what I believe will be 4 to fit in there. So 4 times 6 is 24, carry the 2. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. 4 times 1 is 4. 424 exactly. So it's going to work out nice and even. So we know that 106 goes into 424 exactly 4 times. 4 times 106 is 424. And then 424 minus 424 is 0. I'm not quite done yet because I have to bring down one more 0. And I just have to say 106 goes into 0 times. So what is my answer? What was the price of the bed before the tax? $340. And then I have to ask myself, does that make sense? Well, it should be less than the price after the tax, right? Which was $360 in some sense. So 340 is less than 360, so that makes sense. And since the tax was only a tiny amount, 6%, the 340 should be pretty close to the 360, and it is. So that's another way of saying, okay, how did I do it correctly? Yes. And you could also take your 340 and plug it back into where you have a P in your equation and see if you get the true statement. So, but it's also good to just check for the reasonableness of your answer, because if your equation was wrong, then your answer might be wrong. And if your answer is wrong, you can at least say, okay, did it sound like it was the right answer? Does it make sense with the problem? And this one does make sense with the problem. So that is how you would do those problems. Let's clear that. So these are a little weird. Write an equation for each drawing, solve your equation. Note, more than one equation is possible, but only one solution is correct. So I always start by looking at the bottom of these, and I see that I have a 27, correct? So what I'm going to do is I know that 27 is my total. So something has to equal 27, because that's my total. And above me, I've got my line split into two halves. I've got a 4x plus a 15. I'm trying to squeeze that in there. 4x plus 15 equals 27. And then I would solve for x. So my first step would be to, let me put some white space again here. My first step would be to get rid of the 15 by moving it to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 15 because it's currently adding 15. I subtract the 15 from both sides. These 15s will cross off, leaving me with just 4x on the left equals, I do the math, 27 minus 15 is 12. Last step, divide left and right side by the 4 to get the x by itself. The 4's will then cross off, and I'll be left with x equals 12 divided by 4, or 3. So my x is equal to 3. And if I plug that back in up here, it should equal 27, my total. So 4 times 3 is 12. This little spot here, this length is 12, plus my 15 should equal 27. And it does. So I did it correctly. Let's clear that. And let's look at number 12. What on earth are you supposed to be doing here, right? Well, we have our total. Use a different color here. So where's our total line? Right here. So 2y plus 24 is my total. So my answer is going to equal 2y plus 24. What's my left side going to be? Well, how many little spots do I have? I have a 1y, I have a 2y, I have 3y, I have 4y. So 4 y's, the 4 sections of y. So 4y equals 2y plus 24. And then I solve for y. How do I do that? I have to get the y's together. Currently, they're on opposite sides. So I'm going to subtract a 2y from this side. Whenever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 2y from this side. The 2y and the minus 2y are going to cross off, leaving me just with 24 on the right. On the left side, I have 4y minus 2y. It's going to be 2y. 4 minus 2 is 2. Last step to get y by itself, divide by 2 to left side and to right side. The y's will cross off, and I'll be left with y on the left is equal to 24 divided by 2 on the right, which is 12. So in this case, y is 12. And I could plug the y back into here. That would give me 24 plus 24, or 48. And if I was to plug the 12s in here, I would have 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12. That should equal 48. And it does. So I have done it correctly. Let's hit clear. Okay, now they want you to find the value of x in each triangle below, knowing that perimeter is equal to the total of each side to get added together. So make a little white space here. We'll do one of these. So let's do number 14. So let's set up our equation. We have x, first side, plus the second side, which is 3x minus 16, plus the third side, which is 2x plus 10. And that equals, in the middle there, it tells us the perimeter, P, that equals 90. Okay, now we have to combine all of our like terms. So we have an x, we have a 3x, and we have a 2x. And those are all of our like terms. So we add those together and we get, remember there's an imaginary 1 in front of the first x. So 1 plus 3 plus 2, that's 6. So 6x, and now we have to combine our constants, to combine our negative 16 with our positive 10. What does that give us? Well, it gives us a negative or a minus 6, right? Negative 16 is like you owing me $16, you pay me 10 of it that you have in your pocket, you still owe me 6. So 6x minus 6 equals 90. So sometimes in these word problems, they want us to figure out the length of each side. In our case, I just double glanced to see what the question was asking us. They just want us to find the value of x. So let's continue. So 6x minus 6, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. The 6's will cross off. I'll be left with 6x on the left equals 90 plus 6 on the right, 96. Divide both sides by 6. This is our last step. And then we'll have x by itself. Ran out of space on the bottom there. So x is going to equal whatever 96 divided by 6 is. If you don't know, oops, 96 there divided by 6, you can always use long division. You can say 6 goes into 9 one time. 6 times 1 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. I bring down my 6. And I say how many 6's go into 36? Well, 6 of them. And then 6 times 6 is 36. And my remainder will be 0. So if I didn't know off the top of my head how many 6's go into 96, I could do my long division. So x then would equal 16. So now this is where I was saying that sometimes they're going to ask you not for the value of x. In our case, this is what they ask for. But they might say, well, what is the length of each side? So how would I figure that out? Well, I would put my 16 in for x in my problem. So the length of this side, let me just draw that. Change colors here a little bit so we get a little bit of difference here. So this side length right here is 2 times 16 plus 10. 12, carry the 1, 32 plus 10. So this length of this side is 42. The length of this side right here is 3 times 16 minus 16. So 16 times 3, 18, carry the 1, 48 minus 16, 38, 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32. So this side length is 32. And the last side length is just x. We already know that to be 16. Now, to check that I did it right, if I were to add 16 plus 32 plus 42, I should get a perimeter of 90. So let's see if we do. 32 plus 42 is 4. 74 plus 16 more is 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. So yes. So be careful on those problems when you see those on a test. Make sure that you are checking to see what the problem is asking. Are they asking for x or are they asking for the length of the side? Okay, I'm going to clear that. You can try 13 on your own. Solving an equation with parentheses. Let's just go right down here. So you need to use the distributive property. You need to distribute. What that means is, let's take a look at that one. So I'll put a little white space here. And we have 3 times n plus 2 equals 27. Okay, so now I have to distribute the 3 times n, and then I have to distribute the 3 times positive 2 before I can solve my problem. So 3 times n is just 3n plus, what's 3 times positive 2? 6. And that equals 27. Now, once I've distributed, now I can just do my regular algebra. So subtract 6 from both sides. Hopefully this is becoming pretty easy for you as you practice this. 6 from both sides, this crosses off, and I'm left with 3n on the left equals 27 minus 6 on the right, 21. Last step, divide both sides by 3. Alternatively, that's the same as multiplying by 1/3. However you want to look at it. The 3's cross off, and I'm left with just n on the left side equals 21 divided by 3. That would be 7, because 3 times 7 is 21. So my answer is n equals 7. That's how you do those. They want us solving for the variable in our problem? Yes. Okay. Let's take a look at this one here. It's got a little bit of negativity in it, so we'll just use that one and see that we know how to use our negatives really well here, because that's usually where people make the mistakes, is when you got negatives and positives and you got to remember what's what. So let's try that one. So we have -3 times the quantity m minus 2 equals -15. So we distribute. So we take -3 times m. That's going to give us -3m. And then we distribute again. -3 times -2. That's going to be +6. Right, two negatives together multiplied equals a positive. And altogether that equals -15. That doesn't change. Now we just do our regular algebra. Subtract 6 from both sides. These cross off. I'm left with -3m on the left equals -15 minus 6. That's like -15 plus -6. What is my answer going to be? Right, -21. -15 is like you're $15 in the hole. Subtracting a -6 is like adding another $6 in debt. So 15 and 6 gives you $21 in debt. Now I'm going to divide by -3 to both sides. And I'm left with m equals a negative divided by a negative will give me a positive. 21 divided by 3 then is going to give me a +7. So the answer to that one is +7. Okay. Notice on this one, I'm not going to do this one. I want you to try this, but notice you're going to have to distribute on the left side, and you're going to have to distribute on the right side before you can even do the problem. I want you to just notice that. Same with the one right before it. Okay, some word problems. Okay, let's just, before we even look at our choices, let's just read what it says. 3 times the sum. So 3 times the sum. So when you say sum, I'm going to use parentheses. 3 times the sum of a number n plus 1. When you see the word quantity or the word sum, that means you're going to have to put something in parentheses. So 3 times the sum of a number n plus 1 equals 2 times the sum, again the word sum, so it's going to be parentheses, 2 times the sum of the number n plus 4. So let's see which one that matches. Well, that matches B, right? And then the next step then would be to use our distributive property. and to solve for n. So I'm going to let you do that part at home now. I've shown you a couple examples. You're going to be multiplying the 3 there. You multiply the 3 there, distribute before you even solve. You're going to do the same on the right side. 2 times n and 2 times 4. And then manipulate your equation to get n by itself and to solve for n. Let's clear that. Okay. Let's do number 4, because that's got the word quantity in it. And that's another word for parentheses. So 2/3 times the quantity y minus 3 is equal to 1/3 y. There you go. And then you solve for y. Again, on this side, you're going to have to use the distributive property first, 2/3 times y, and then 2/3 times negative 3 before you can solve for y. Okay? All right, let's take a look at one of these confusing ones here. Let's look at number 5. Okay, so when you do these problems, they're not going to tell you ahead of time. They're not going to give you this little hint here. You got to find the person that everything is based off of. In our question, everything is based off of Sammy. So it says Sammy, Ben, and Louis went to lunch. Ben's meal cost 45 cents less than Sammy's. Louis's meal cost twice as much as Ben's. We start with Sammy, we can get Louis. No, we can get Ben, and then we can get Louis. He's based off of Ben. So Louis's meal costs twice as much as Ben. If the bill came to $9.25, how much does each owe? And they're telling you, hint, let S equal Sammy's share. So the key to these problems is to first figure out which variable is going to represent the key. So in our case, S for Sammy. Sammy is our key. So we're going to say, let S equal Sammy's amount. Okay. And then what are we going to do for Ben? What's Ben's amount going to be? I'm going to do this different. Sammy's amount is going to equal S. Ben's amount is going to equal what? What does it say in the problem? Ben's meal costs 45 cents less than Sammy's. So Sammy's is S minus 0.45. So 45 cents less. And then we have Louis's amount. I don't know if that's apostrophe S or just an apostrophe. Louis's amount is equal to twice Ben's. So twice is 2 times. 2 times what? The quantity of Ben. Ben is S minus 0.45. So that's a little bit tricky. Once you get that all set up, and you know who's got what amount, what formula is going to work for each, then we know that their total bill came to $9.25. So you're going to have Sammy's bill plus Ben's bill, S minus 0.45 plus Louis's bill, which is 2, times the quantity, S minus 0.45 equals, and then they tell you in the problem, the total bill was $9.25. So then it's a matter of solving. Before we can solve, we have to distribute the 2 to the S into the negative 0.45. See if I can type that out. So that'll give us S plus S minus 0.45 plus 2S, 2 times S, minus 2 times 0.45. I think that's 0.9, isn't it? I'll use my calculator just real quick here. 0.45 times 2, I know I'm cheating. 0.9 minus 0.9, no, or 0.90 equals 9.25. Okay, now we are able to solve for S. So we combine our like terms. We have S, S, and 2S, so that's 4S. Oh, that should be a minus, not an equals. Sorry about that. It's a minus. Okay. And now we have 4S, that's an S, plus, now we have negative 0.45 here and a negative 0.90. That is negative 1.35. So plus negative 1.35 equals 9.25. 9.25. Now we can add 1.35 to both sides. And that will give us 10, carry the 1, 6. Oh, that's supposed to be a 6. $10.60 on the right side. And these will cross off on the left side. I'll be left with 4S. And then I will divide both left and right side by 4. And for the sake of time, I am going to use my calculator. 10.6 divided by 4. $2.65 for S. So S is going to equal, and we know that S is Sammy, $2. What did I say? 65 cents? Yes, $2.65. Okay, be careful in the next part. What does Ben's equal? Let's go back up to our formula here. Ben is S minus 0.45. So Ben is $2.65 minus 0.45. $2.20. $2.20. And then Lewis would be what? Plug in our value for S, $2.65, go up to the original equation here. So $2.65 minus 45 cents, 2.65 minus 0.45, that gives us $2.20, and then we have to times it by the 2, times 2, $4.40. I could have done all those calculations on the screen here, but I think for the sake of time and not to make this video too long, I'll just use the calculator there. If you add these all up, we did it correctly, we should get $9.25. We get a 5, we get a 12, carry the 1, we get 4, 5, 9. Yep, so that is how you do it. So the key to those is to make sure your formulas are correct and to figure out what everything is based on. Okay, there's another one for you to try for number 6 there, consecutive integers. Consecutive integers mean they come in a row. Okay, and I believe, oh, that's the last page. So there we go. So I hope you have a good day and we'll see you next time. Bye.